The NFL draft is nearly upon us. The final episode pre-2023 NFL draft, and it is the final mock draft. It is dueling mock drafts, and actually it's triple mock drafts today. Peacock mock draft, Crocker mock draft, and an extra draft for projecting what the 49ers would do as well, and some of me and Croc's my guys, the Peacock my guys as well, that we would love to see the 49ers draft this weekend coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks to everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm pumped for this one, Croc. The draft is coming, and let's get into this mock draft here. And I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Got a little spreadsheet here. It's the Peacock mock. It's the 49ers projection as well in the third column if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, make sure you go check out YouTube. We'll be doing some live things over the course of the draft and, of course, breaking down all the picks that the 49ers make throughout and emergency pods in between if they move up into a spot where we did not expect them to be. And we'll be going live anyway, I think, during the first round, even though the 49ers don't have any picks on Thursday night. All right, Croc, let's get into this thing. I guess we'll just go in order here. Mine is the first one up, and my mock has not changed from the very first mock draft I made this season, Croc. I'm going Blake Freeland, offensive tackle from BYU. If he's there at 99, maybe if you think he's not going to get it to 99, the Niners might move up. We don't have any trades here in this one, but you could envision the 49ers saying, we're going to go up 10 spots, take away one of those fifth-round picks, and there's your Blake Freeland pick. And I think he fits from could be a swing tackle as a rookie, could step in late in the rookie season if things aren't going well, if there are injuries. He could play left tackle. He's played right tackle. He gave up 0 sacks, 0 penalties last year, Croc. And he is not perfect, which is why he's going to be there in the third round, because he's still a little top heavy. Senior Bowl wasn't great for him. You guys saw some guys get around him, get underneath him, but he just moves so well. And I think he's the type of offensive tackle Kyle Shanahan's going to like. So that's my guy, Blake Freeland, in round number 1.
Moves extremely well. Doesn't have to be a powerful guy. 49ers offense, they definitely like guys that can just kind of move out in space and get in the way and kind of wall guys off. And I think if there is a place where he excels, it's that. And I remember cutting on this film, first thing I noticed, Kyle Shanahan will like him.
Yep. And if there's a Mike McGlinchey replacement in this draft, it's Blake Freeland.
Right.
A lot of the same strengths and weaknesses.
Height, all that stuff gets kind of, the anchor could be a little bit better in pass protection.
Yes, absolutely. But he can put on some weight. I think he's tall and he absolutely can do that. And you can't teach his athleticism at his height, 6'8", 302. You go an Alabama linebacker, Croc.
Yeah. No Reuben Foster there, but we got Henry To'oTo'o. And, looking at him and how the 49ers linebackers play, I think he really fits. Now, he's not a former safety, but he's kind of built a lot, linear, kind of like the linebackers that the 49ers have. And when I watch him, again, not this thumper, penetrating linebacker like Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman were, but a legit coverage guy. I think he moves very well out in space. Again, he's not this stacked linebacker that's going to defeat a whole lot of blocks. I didn't think Fred Warner was that, didn't think Dre Greenlaw was that, but we've seen how those guys have definitely stepped their game up. And he looks to kind of be in that same type of mold. Again, not a thumper, but if you're looking for a guy that can come in and be a coverage guy, he's definitely that. 49ers have a third linebacker need. We'll see how McQuarrie Ball does. But being able to get a guy like To'oTo'o with his type of talent, guy that started out at actually from the Bay Area, so he's a local guy, started out at Tennessee, transferred over to Alabama to finish off his college career. I liked him in this spot.
And definitely can go get the ball carrier, which is very important.
He can't sideline to sideline. Like, he can run. He's a guy. He's just not, downhill thumper running through people's chests. But coverage guy out
doesn't even exist anymore. They don't even have thumpers in the league anymore.
Right. Very rare.
49ers selection here. Yaya Diaby, defensive end. He is an interesting player. I put on the tape there, and I did not expect to see what I saw when he's 6'3.5" and 260. And and ran a 4.51 at the combine. It's like, man, this guy's blazing. He must be a speed rusher coming off the edge. He had 9 sacks last year. It was really his first big year of production. But he's almost an interior guy. And we've seen the 49ers do that a lot with guys that are edge players and bring him inside. He's got no bend at all for how much athleticism he has. Everything is just boom, but he explodes. I mean, he is very explosive, but really tight. And he doesn't really win around the corner at all. But if there's a gap there, he will shoot the heck out of it, and he will blow through it. Like he'll turn you into a swinging gate of an offensive lineman. And so you could move him around. You could rush him from the interior. He's pretty a raw player, and I think there could be more with him, but super explosive. And he's a player the 49ers have brought in. It's going to be a theme here with the 49ers column and the 49ers projection. A lot of players they've met with, which they bring in a couple, 2 or 3 guys every single year, sign some after the draft as well, players that they bring in and talk to during the draft. So it's a good indicator of players that they at least are looking at, and that some of them they absolutely like. Some of them they may find out they don't like. Yaya Diaby seems like one of them, and you should never be shocked if the 49ers draft a defensive lineman high. The next pick, my second selection, the 3rd round pick. This is one of my guys, Croc, and we can kind of talk about some of our my guys here. When I've gone through all those 3rd round types on the edge, and all the the Byron Youngs and the Zach Harrisons, Yaya Diaby, and I looked at the tape of all of them, and there was one, Croc, that stood out like above them all easily for me, and that is Isaiah McGuire out of Missouri. I was shocked. I'm like, why does he have a consensus, 3rd, 4th round grade? He's 4th round grade in a lot of places. 6'4", 268 pounds. He didn't run a 4.4 flat like Byron Young did, or a 4.5 like Yaya Diaby did, but he's 6'4", 268, and he ran 4.7, and he's got 34-inch arms. And unlike Diaby and unlike Zach Harrison, he actually has a little bit of wiggle. He can kind of dip and get around the corner a little bit despite that size. He can bring speed to power. He's good setting the edge. I mean, he can do a little bit of everything. I love what I saw from Isaiah McGuire. I think he's an every down defensive end. I think he can be a starting defensive end in the NFL. And he is getting officially stamped. Croc is my guy in this draft. Is it edge players? Isaiah McGuire out of Missouri. That is my guy.
I like it. And, again, we're throwing bodies there. 49ers definitely signed a few defensive ends, guys that can be more depth pieces. But a lot of times that's a 1-year contract. You get a guy like this, and if you can strike gold, kind of like they did with Max Crosby, the Las Vegas Raiders, that's kind of the goal here with this type of defensive end that might be a little bit underrated for whatever reason.
When you were doing your mock, was there any of your my guys that you saw there that you had to get, or do you think some of your my guys might be someone that the Niners are gonna have to go up for?
One of my guys was there late. My guy was there late, and I chose to go in a different direction. But it was somebody that I really like. I'll touch on it a little bit later.
You know what, Croc? I might have taken one of your my guys late in this draft. We get 4 7th round picks. I was like, I was feeling strong, and I was like, you know what? Croc feels strong about this. I might go in this direction. So we'll see if I got one of them right a little bit later. That you would like as well. Your 2nd round pick here for the 49ers, or you're not your 2nd round pick, but your 2nd, 3rd round pick, Zach Pickens, defensive tackle out of South Carolina.
Yeah, he's an athletic defensive tackle, guy that ran in the 4.8s. He has the size. He's 6'4", in the 280s. And it felt like a guy that the 49ers could potentially put as a 4-3 in and base downs and kind of slide inside, especially with the athleticism that he has. So I think the 49ers definitely need to kind of bolster up in the inside of that position. Obviously, they did a really good job going to get Hargraves. You obviously have Eric Armstead. But outside of that, there's some guys that are kind of banking on maybe coming back from injury. And where is the legit depth and really good football players in the interior? I thought Zach Pickens would be one of those guys out of South Carolina.
And by the way, speaking of South Carolina, Javon Kinlaw might be traded on draft day, so they might be one extra body short on the interior by the time they're making this selection. And the 2nd pick, 3rd round, number 101, projecting a 49ers player here. And these aren't Croc's projections. This is me projecting the 49ers picks over here. And it is Jair Brown, safety from Penn State. Man, I don't know if you've gotten to the Jair Brown
No, you
tape
just
yet.
told me too. You said you gotta watch Jair Brown. I'm like, okay, yeah, watch my. I just forgot about it.
I put him on because I was kind of like, I kept pushing him. I pushed the guys aside that I was looking at, and I was like, I think maybe this guy may be a box safety, looking at the height, weight, speed stuff, looking at different things. And then I put on the tape for Jair Brown, and I was kind of shocked at what I saw. And to be honest, what I saw was Talanoa Hufanga 2.0.
Mm.
And except for on tape, he played faster, but he didn't time well, which is why he's here. I think if he ran 4.4, Jair Brown might be up with Quan Martin being drafted higher in the third round, in the second round, maybe a top 50 pick. Who knows? But Jair Brown is flying around. He's had 10 interceptions the last 2 years. He had 6 last year, I think 4 this year. He's everywhere on that Penn State defense and plays a lot like Jaquan Brisker. He just didn't test as well as Jaquan Brisker. And I'm watching the tape and I'm like, it looks like he can play free safety. He can play strong safety as well. It's not that big. He's 5'11", 203, I think it was. But at the combine, he ran 4.65. It's like, man, he's faster than that. He ran again at his pro day, and it was 4.58, I think. But which is the reason he's here late in the third round. But just if you look at the tape alone, he looks like he can play free safety. And when I thought about that, I was like, you know what? This might be one of those GPS specials for the 49ers, like Dre Greenlaw was. And they've referenced that so many times. A guy that plays faster, moves faster, the GPS speeds have him at a faster miles per hour than he runs on a track. Jair Brown might be one of those guys. And I have a feeling John Lynch watches the Jair Brown tape and likes it a lot. So I've got him going to the Niners here.
You talked about Talanoa Hufanga, obviously his playmaking ability, but a guy who, weight-wise, when he measured in at his pro day, wasn't the biggest of guys. And then his 40-yard dash at his pro day, 4.61. Obviously, that's not the combine. So, it's not the AccuTrack stuff that they're using. But nonetheless, a 4.58, I believe, for Brown, that's pretty solid. Like, okay, he can run.
And let's just say a faster free safety version of Talanoa Hufanga, that'd be a pretty darn good player, wouldn't it?
That would be a pretty darn good player. That might be what Gibson is right now, even at this old of age. Yeah. Or that was young Gibson. That was definitely young Gibson.
Yeah, young Gibson. All right, I got some DBs coming as well. I know Croc is a DB specialist, and he's got to have some DBs on his mock draft for the San Francisco 49ers coming up. All the rest of the 9 more picks for Peacock and a 49ers projection as well next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. If you've ever thought you'd make a good NFL GM, well, now's your shot. And you've heard us talk about this mobile game app, and we had tons of fun playing with it. I was playing, trying to take on the other Locked On hosts, and I believe it was Chris Carter. Was it Chris Carter, I believe, of Locked On Steelers that ended up having the highest score out of all the pseudo GMs here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I know Kyle Krabs had a lot of fun doing it, putting in multiple seasons. You blow through a season too in a heartbeat if you're bored and you're just getting into the game, as a lot of us hosts did. You're responsible for everything with Ultimate Football GM, hiring the right coaches and coordinators, managing all the finances, including negotiating player salaries and terms, navigating your franchise through free agency, the draft, injuries, player personnel, all the ups and downs and issues that might pop up in a season. Some of those issues you might not expect. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM, completely free, playable offline, play on the go as you want to and when you want to. And Locked On 49ers listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise in-game when using promo code Locked On. That's Locked On, all caps, one word. So make sure you check it out today to download. Go to ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. Here we go, finishing up the third round and getting into the fifth round of picks in our final dueling mock drafts here for 2023 before the real thing Thursday. And,
real quick, Peacock, how tough was that? Like, you have your 3 picks in the third, and then it feels like it's forever until you pick again. I just start seeing names flying off the board where I'm like, man, I would like to have him in this range. Man, I would like to have him in this range. And you just kind of miss out on all of those guys. And it starts to get a little slim after that.
It gets slim late 5. So I could absolutely see the 49ers trying to climb up, maybe not from the third, but maybe from the 5th, getting in towards the 4th round.
Right.
I think that's something to look out for as well for the 49ers. Could absolutely see that. My pick at 102 here to end round 3. And to end day 2 of the draft. 49ers are going to dominate the end of that one. And then Croc and I are going to have to go live right after it and find out who these players are. I hope we studied up the guys that they drafted 99, 101, and 102, because we won't have any time after the end of the 3rd round before we go live and talk about these players. And it is Corey Trice, cornerback. I put slash safety out of Purdue. And I'm betting on the tools here. I'm betting on the traits for Corey Trice. And I think he could stick at corner, but you have that backup that maybe he's a safety and could have range and play a center field safety role, which he was earlier in his career at Purdue. I like what I saw from Trice. Long, fast. I think it's the type of player 49ers like to pick there late in round 3. So Corey Trice out of Purdue. And I think, Croc, you liked his tape enough, right?
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if they're going to make him play off coverage. Is that what Wilkes is going to do with this defense? Or if they're going to let him be a little bit more physical at the line of scrimmage, get his hands on guys, and use his speed to run with guys vertically.
Thanks for reminding me, Croc. The other thing about Isaiah McGuire that I didn't even think of until one of our listeners on Twitter reminded me of it, Wilkes was at Missouri when Isaiah McGuire was there. So that's an extra little connection. Isaiah McGuire picking up steam for me for the 49ers. I love him in round 3. Crocker, your 3rd pick in round 3. I have to unveil it because I don't remember who it is. Oh, Tyler Steen out of Alabama. Yeah, some really good tape for Tyler Steen.
Yeah, so, clearly right here, I'm working in the front 7 on defense, and you see me in the trenches on the offense. I think that's kind of what the 49ers want to build their identity on, being able to have guys where they can be a little bit more aggressive. And Steen, you talked about Freeland. Steen, I remember looking at my notes on him. We did an episode. We talked about him. Really good mover. And that was one thing I talked about, him being able to jump out versus guys rushing from a wide 9. He had a really good pass set. It was extremely consistent, not a bulldozer in the run game or anything like that, but definitely can move some bodies. Really did a good job working to the next level in the run game. But as a pass protector, I thought he was very consistent with the footwork, with his pass set, his drop, and being able to anchor down and not get blown through on bull rushes. So I think he's a guy who kind of fits with what the 49ers are doing, and kind of has that height weight thing going on too. 6'5", 311 pounds.
He's a big old dude. Doesn't have the longest arms, but he's played a lot of ball. And if they're cool with him playing tackle, he could probably jump in and play right away. Could be a guard though at the next level, which is probably the reason he would be here in the 3rd round. Like we're not going to find perfect prospects here at this point in the draft. And even then, I think he just looks like a starting caliber guard on tape if that's what they want to do. And who knows, maybe you plug him in at guard and you move Burford out to tackle eventually. So a lot of options for the 49ers up front as they build this offensive line this year.
Little musical chairs going on there.
Absolutely. A player I really like on tape that I've watched a lot recently is Jaden Reed. He's somebody the 49ers, all 3 of these guys they brought in for 30 visits so far that I have on the 49ers projected mock draft. And Jaden Reed, wide receiver from Michigan State, is not the biggest guy, but he's got special teams value. He's got speed. He plays bigger than his size. He'll go up and get the ball. And when you look at Ray McLeod, this isn't so much about the 49ers. First of all, the 49ers have drafted a lot of receivers under Kyle Shanahan. They've filtered through quite a few receivers in the draft, had a lot of hits and a lot of misses, but it's one of the more popular positions they've drafted over the course of 6 drafts, now 7 drafts for the 49ers. And I think Jaden Reed's the type of player that Kyle Shanahan is going to like with the way he competes and the way he plays. And Ray McLeod's going into the last year of his deal, and Jaden Reed could just slip right into that Ray McLeod role after this year, no doubt. But he could play a little bit outside as well.
Yeah, not the biggest of guys, but he can win vertically at the catch point. I mean, he was a guy I was watching some Michigan State games, and the way he was kind of jumping up and going and attacking the ball at his highest point. It's like, hey, this is okay, nice little 6'2" receiver that they have. And then come to find out, oh no, he's 5'11", 185 pounds. So definitely slim. I like where you're going with the Ray McLeod connection there. Ran well, ran in the 4.4s. Athletic receiver that knows how to go up and get it. And I think that's one thing that the 49ers are really missing, just that legit contested catch guy. He's not the biggest of guys, but he still knows how to go up and get it.
Now that I think about it, Croc, I'm a little bit surprised that I didn't see your guy A.T. Perry show up at wide receiver in the 3rd round.
Right, yeah.
On your mock.
Yeah, I know. He's a guy. I kind of went away a little bit from the receivers. I don't want to give anything away too much.
Okay. We're getting into round 5 now. Pick 155. Marte Mapu's been kind of one of my guys as well throughout the process. I love what I see on tape from him. I've seen some people try to throw up in the 3rd round range. I just don't think his resume is going to put him there. 49ers brought him in for a visit. He's athletic, like you talked about with Henry To'o. He's that build of a former safety, but he actually is a former safety. Plays that overhang position that everyone puts their best player at now in college football. I'm just putting him at linebacker from day one. He's not going to play safety for me. Got Hufanga in the box. 6'3", 221. Get him up to 225 or so. That's fine weight wise. He can play special teams early in his career. He can compete for a job with the other linebackers, and he can eventually be a starting type dude and run and chase and cover linebackers, cover running backs, like me some Marte Mapu. And I think the 5th round, 155 is the exact right spot for him.
Hey, man, nice local guy. Sac State Hornets, Stingers up.
Yep.
Those guys had a terrific year. I talked about that one game, though. Last game, defense let them down. He was kind of a part of that, but he definitely was a defensive standout throughout the year.
Michael Wilson. Speaking of special teams, Michael Wilson's a guy who plays special teams, wide receiver out of Stanford, had a really good Senior Bowl.
Really good Senior Bowl. And, his ability to win vertically, I think the knock on him and why he's going to kind of slide a little bit, he didn't run extremely fast, ran 4.58, I believe it was. But at 6'2", over 210 pounds, he's a very fluid mover, understands like nuance on how to get vertically and stack guys and be able to win down the field. Strong hands at the catch point. And again, I'm looking for something that is a little different than what the 49ers have. He's twitched up. He definitely understands how to work leverage and how to win underneath, but also has that ability to win vertically. And most importantly, again, not so much just running away from guys with speed, even though he can win over the top of speed, but just winning at that catch point, being a contested catch guy. And I just really believe the 49ers are really missing that. I think he helps with that.
49ers pick in round 5, pick 155 is Braden Daniels, offensive lineman from Utah, a player the 49ers have brought Braden Daniels. They met with him in the combine, a formal interview at the combine. I don't think they've met with anybody as much as they've met with Braden Daniels. And he might be a 3rd round guy. But I'll tell you why he's not and why he was there in this mock draft, potentially in the 5th round. And he might be that guy that the 49ers move up for in the 4th round. He might be somebody they just drafted in the 3rd round. But Braden Daniels out of Utah played left tackle for him this year. He's played actually a lot of snaps in college. And he's played left tackle. He's played right tackle. He's played both guard spots. 49ers met with him formally at the combine. They were at a workout with only 2 other teams, I think, at Utah, and then brought him in for a 30 visit as well. So why would they bring in an offensive lineman that much? They know how he moves. They've seen the tape. I think they're trying to get in his head and see how well he can maybe make calls and how smart he is. This might be a center conversion for me with Braden Daniels just because of how he's built, because he's only 6'3.5", 300 and something pounds. And let me look up exactly what his height and weight are. He just doesn't really meet the standards for what an offensive starting tackle is in the NFL. 6'3.5", 294. So he's undersized there, but ran a 4.99. He's got 33-inch arms, which, that is the very, very minimum that you want usually for a starting offensive tackle. But then he's sub, 300 pounds as well. So you put those together. I don't think I see an offensive tackle. I see an interior guy all day. And potentially maybe in Kyle Shanahan's offense, the future center for the 49ers. But he could play a ton of positions probably early in his career as a reserve before he figures out what spot he wants to come in and potentially earn a starting job for with his athleticism and his ability. And pretty good player, pretty good tape. Don't think he's a 3rd round guy necessarily for me. And I don't think he's a tackle, but I like him as a converted center possibly.
And you see that a lot, a guy that played a different position then gets converted to a center spot. I mean, how many times do you see just a pure center get drafted and this guy come in and just be, play for a long time in the NFL? A lot of times those guys convert. Now, we have seen like Creed Humphrey get drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs in the 3rd round recently, but kind of rare to see centers just get drafted, especially high. Kelly, I think, was one where he get drafted to the Colts in the 1st round some years ago, but it's very rare you see that.
I wonder what the percentage is of NFL offensive linemen that were their college left tackle, no matter what position they play in the NFL.
Right.
It's probably at least half of them, right? Feels that way. Moving on to round 5, pick 164 for Team Peacock here. Davis Allen, Clemson tight end. I swooped him up when I saw him in the mock draft machine. And I loved the tape I saw from Davis Allen. He's not a dynamic athlete or anything, but he's got size. He's that classic Y inline tight end. So bring in a tight end too that can block, and he's willing to block, but he can be a weapon in the red zone as well. He can move the chains. He's a competitive guy. Reminds me of, I think Dalton Schultz is my comparison, my NFL comparison, and their height, weight, speed coming out of school was very similar, and they were drafted in the middle round area. Davis Allen, tight end from Clemson. You put him in line, so when you bring your second tight end in the game, you have that guy block, and you let George Kittle move around and be a factor in the passing game, right? So that's why I'm looking at more of a Y tight end, maybe more than a movement tight end. I don't know if that's where the 49ers are looking, but Davis Allen only ran 4.8, not a dynamic athlete, but again, he's an above the rim type player. The 49ers don't have a lot of those. Red zone weapon, can block you, and can move around a little bit and move the chains as well, like Davis Allen from Clemson.
What was my next pick?
Croc's next selection, I'll tell you right now, Will Mallory,
Yeah.
tight end. We're going tight ends here.
We're going tight ends.
This one from Miami, and he's very different than Davis Allen. A lot more athleticism, not quite the blocker.
They used him more as a pure receiver. They would kind of split him out, and he worked more as a detached tight end. But he still did do some of the inline stuff as well. He's just not the most aggressive blocker. So kind of a little bit more Ross Dwelly than Charlie Warner. I guess that's kind of the best way to kind of describe it. I think Charlie Warner, the 49ers are looking for more of a pure pass catching tight end. He'd get a little bit more run. Maybe that's what they're looking for. But I think Will Mallory can do some of the inline stuff. They'd have him as an offset tight end to the strong side. He'd come back across formations. He just wasn't very strong at the point of attack, and that's something that he can improve on. But as a pass catcher, I think that he really kind of benefits, has some run after catch ability as well. I think he's a guy that you kind of see his game go to the next level if he were drafted by the 49ers.
Yeah, the way they could use him, detach him, move him around, and as long as the will is there, then no pun intended, Will Mallory, that you can get bigger, you can get stronger as long as you're a willing blocker and you can do some of those things. So you can teach that more than you can teach raw athleticism.
Right.
And pick 64 or 164 for the 49ers, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, which would probably indicate a Trey Lance trade, which would mean there's another draft pick in here somewhere for the 49ers, but they've met with him. We've talked about it a lot. I saw that you did not tease. I'm gonna tease this a little bit, and we're at that point of the draft. But you didn't have Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I thought he might have been one of your guys that you had in your mock draft, and so I had to put him in here for the 49ers projection, round 5. It's a great spot for him, developmental guy, a backup, and I like the fit for the 49ers.
49ers meeting with him multiple times, and again, there is the Trey Lance aspect of it. Will he be traded? I think we'll find out shortly if something like that is going to come to fruition, but checks all the boxes from an athletic standpoint. We'll see the accuracy can be a little bit hit and miss at times, but definitely has big-time ability, strong arm, super dynamic. Is he a guy that they would like to draft? I feel like he's more of a guy that they would like to get as an undrafted rookie free agent, and I'm not quite sure he'll be there.
Yeah, I don't think you would. And if you're going to draft the guy, you're not going to put him through waivers if you're going to draft him in the 5th round. So, yeah, something else has to happen here if you're going to go quarterback probably this high on the roster, because you're not going to keep 4 quarterbacks. All right, next we'll finish up this dueling mock draft for the 2023 NFL draft for the San Francisco 49ers. But first, I got to let the folks out there know, Croc, about our friends at Built Bar. If you're looking for that delicious snack, you don't want all the sugar and calories, right? Then you need the best tasting protein bar ever, and that is Built. You got to try these. If you're like me, you're looking for that healthy snack. You want to make healthier choices. Down a few lbs because I'm reaching for things like Built Bars, and I'm not reaching for candy bars. I'm not reaching for chips, and chips is, chips and salsa, man. That's the thing that really gets me, man. Those tortilla chips, and I gotta stay away from them. Pretty much anything Mexican food, burritos, whatever. So I grab a Built Bar, and healthy tastes amazing with Built Bar, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate, and they're satisfying because they taste good, and you want to eat them, but there's only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar, but you stay satisfied because there's a whopping 17 grams of protein in most Built Bars, and tons of amazing flavors. Peanut butter puff is the newest. They got the peanut butter balls there now as well. You got churro, cookies, and cream. And you can find them not only at built.com, but your local store shelves as well, like Walmart and Sam's Club. They've got 4-bar boxes at Walmart in the pharmacy section and 13-bar boxes of hit flavors like brownie batter puff and churro puff at Sam's Club. So check them out. Find them at built.com as well, and then you can thank us later. Here we go, Croc. We got to go quick and finish this thing up, and we'll jam through the rest of this dueling mock draft. And I'm just going to reveal the rest of round 5 and round 6 for Team Peacock, Team Croc, and our 49ers projection over here. And feel free to talk about any of these players that you want. Anthony Johnson is an interesting one from Ohio State, Purdy's old teammate. So I went with Corey Trice, who was a former safety that was converted to corner that could potentially go back to safety, could play potentially either spot in the NFL. He's a height, weight, speed monster. Anthony Johnson from Iowa State, though, is the opposite. He was a corner who converted to safety. So I like the athleticism. He doesn't blow you away, height, weight, speed, but he meets the mark, 6 feet, 200, or 5'11", 200. 4.47 speed, former corner, so we can cover a little bit. Got his hands on a couple of footballs as a senior, only 1 year as a safety, but a player that could sit behind a guy who's played safety for a decade in Tashawn Gibson and learn from him and be a reserve in year 1 for the 49ers in the 5th round. I think that's a good value, can help you out on special teams. Anthony Johnson from Iowa State. And then my pick in round 6, Jake Haener, quarterback from Fresno State. I think people are going to be shocked how low Jake Haener goes. And if he goes this low, this is your Brock Purdy guy, right? Played a lot of football. He's tough. He's smart. Gets the ball out of his hands. He's accurate. Would you be willing to take a Jake Haener in round 6 and maybe even try to waive him and get him onto your practice squad? I don't know, but I think it's the right area for Jake Haener. I know some local fans think guys like Jake Haener might go a lot higher because of all the hype locally. He's had some injuries, an older prospect. I don't think so. I think he's going to be around 5, 6, maybe even early round 7 type of a prospect.
Yeah, I was just listening to my guy Jason Laponte, and I heard him say he thinks, if the way it came off is if he thinks he's more of a 4th round pick, and I don't think I agree more with you. Obviously, my guy Greg Pinelli, super high on Jake Haener. He also trains him, so I don't know if there's a little bit of biasness going on there, but talks about his clean mechanics, really smart, come in. He fit perfect with what the 49ers are doing. So I definitely like the Jake Haener pick there. I went center there with Notre Dame, Jaret Patterson. Play guard, play center, just having that positional flexibility. I think that's something the 49ers need. Obviously, like you had the 49ers drafting interior offensive lineman or what you kind of project as well. So I think we're on the same page there. Nick Jones, cornerback out of Ball State, but he started his career there playing nickel. He ended up sliding outside, and he played nickel just to get on the field. So as a true freshman, he was on the field playing nickel, slid outside, played very well at corner, and really stood out at the East-West Shrine game, balled out, had an interception in the actual game, but he was one of the practice standouts throughout that week as well. Being able to get him a little bit late here, especially with his positional versatility, a la a guy like Damador Lenore, but just with a little bit more height to him, a little bit more length. I like this versatility. A guy I really like. But I like what you did there with the kicker, man. Drafting the kicker in the 5th round for the 49ers.
Yeah, Jake Moody. Look, don't be shocked, guys, if there's a 5th round kicker, and don't even be shocked if there's a 3rd round kicker. And I almost put him a little bit higher, but I went with Dorian Thompson Robinson with the pick before because he was still there. Jake Moody, kicker out of Michigan. The 49ers might want to try to get whoever they think is the best kicker in this draft, and I think they will draft a kicker. There's going to be a rookie kicker competing, and I don't know if it's going to be a 3rd round pick. I don't know if it's going to be an undrafted rookie, but there's going to be a rookie kicker in there competing with the veteran. So Jake Moody, 5th round. I think the 49ers might go early with kicker to see if they can find their guy there like they did. And look, they drafted a punter in the 4th round. So and I think most teams would say a kicker is more important than a punter. So don't be shocked. Pick 102, the kicker. Yeah. And then Braden Willis is a player they've met with, a move tight end, more like Will Mallory than Davis Allen, and not a Y inline tight end, more of a move tight end from Oklahoma. But they brought him in for a 30 visit, and I think everybody I've drafted so far, and I think everybody I drafted on this 49ers list came in for a 30 visit with the 49ers, or at least met with them multiple times, except Jake Moody. I don't think they've met with him, but I can't remember if there's been reports of that yet. Shout out to Steph Sanchez at Steph49K, I believe, on Twitter, and she's been awesome through this process, charting all that and following along with who the 49ers are meeting. And they have been drafting players that they've been meeting with. Not all of them, but some of these players are going to end up 49ers. Braden Willis might be one of them. And here's the reveal for the all 4 7th-round selections here. And we'll finish up this dueling mock drafts. My 4 7-round selections. I went kicker as well. Chad Ryland, kicker from NC State. He's got a nice little leg on him. Antonio Mafi, guard from UCLA, local product, and he's just a mauler. 6'3", 330, I think, inside, mauling type of a guard. I don't know if he fits the 49ers, but he's fun to watch, and he beats people up at times, and he gets beat sometimes himself. That's why he's a 7th-round pick. Evan Hull, running back from Northwestern, is a sleeper running back that I was turned on to by my guy Keith Sanchez of Locked On NFL Draft. He's one of his favorite sleeper running backs in this class, and turned on the tape, and he was a really good player. And then one of your guys, Croc, Matt Landers, wide receiver from your state of Arkansas. Tall, fast. There's apparently some red flags. He's bounced around, I think, to 3 different colleges at this point. But, man, you can't teach what he's got, which is speed and height. And he can track the ball. It's useful athleticism.
The 4 guys that I chose are kind of a little bit more familiar names. You got Fehoko, defensive lineman out of San Jose State. I went Daniel Scott, safety out of Cal, and that's a guy that we watched. Didn't pop on film, but if you tell me I can get him in the 7th round with his athletic profile, I like it. Now, these last 2 are probably 2 of my favorite picks in my draft, especially from a value standpoint. I went Travis Dye, running back out of USC, and he's really nasty with the swag. He wears no gloves, he wears no sleeves, nothing. I don't think he lines up his mustache. I don't think he lines up his hair. He just kind of cuts it. I feel like with like the 3 guard, and he just goes over it. It's really nasty.
What you're speaking to me is, this is my guy, dude. He does not care. He's not going to waste time on things like lining up his mustache. He's going to put on the guard. He's going to cut his own hair, and he's going to go ball. I love this dude already.
And he goes out there, and what he does, man, I mean, he was everything for USC's offense. I think they really missed him when he went out. He didn't play in that Pac-12 championship game against Utah. He's the guy that can catch the ball out the backfield extremely well, very fluid. And for a guy that's a little bit smaller, he was a transfer from Oregon. But for a guy that was a little bit smaller, man, I mean, he ran strong. And he was one of Justin Herbert's main guys. Like when Herbert was at Oregon, and he just kept throwing the ball to number 30, throwing the ball to number 30. I'm like, man, who is this guy? It was Dye. And I felt like as a pure running back for USC, I thought he played his best ball and really kind of kept other guys off of the field. I got my Edison hats behind me. My guy, Riley Brown, 5-star freshman running back. Everybody wanted him. He ended up going to USC, and it was hard for him to really get a lot of love and touches because Dye was there, and he really held it down. So I really like him this late in the draft. Will the 49ers like him? Because I don't know if he fits like the outside zone. It felt like more of a kind of a power scheme type guy, even though he's not like a power runner. And then MJ Anderson. We talked about him, the edge rusher out of Iowa State. And, because of their defense, it was a little weird. It was almost like a 3-tech all the time, but he felt like a guy who can kind of press the edge as well. And the 49ers really kind of like those big bodies on the edge, especially if they're going to play a little bit more quarters. He can play in base downs and then he can slide inside. And 49ers have lost some defensive linemen that had that type of versatility. I think he can really kind of help with that potentially. I mean, we got 11 guys that we, drafted each. All 11 guys won't make this squad. I mean, they won't even pick 11 guys, but the last 2 were probably 2 of my favorite picks with where I was able to get them from a value standpoint.
And projecting these last 4 7th-round picks for the San Francisco 49ers, Jake Witt, offensive tackle from Northern Michigan. We've talked about a little bit on the show. He's the Kirkland brand, Blake Freeland, 6'7". He weighed in at 302. He only played at 280 pounds during the season. He converted from a hooper at another college, ended up playing football tight end. Their right tackle got hurt. So as a junior in college, mid-season, hadn't practiced at tackle. He was a tight end, just started playing tackle and stayed the starter at right tackle all year, and then just played left tackle as a starter as a senior. And the tape is pretty good, and he's got great movement skills. He's super athletic, 37-inch vertical, 4.89 40 at his pro day at 302 pounds. He's going to have to hit the weights. He might even take a red shirt year, but a lot to work with. Raw tools there. Jake Witt from Northern Michigan that the 49ers have met with. Here's a Bobby Turner special. 49ers have had in and met with multiple times. Deneric Prince, running back out of Tulsa. Dontavian Wicks, second wide receiver for the 49ers in this mock draft after Jaden Reed earlier. Dontavian Wicks out of Virginia with a lot of production there. And then B.J. Thompson, who the 49ers have met with, a sleeper edge rusher out of Stephen F. Austin. Very different than the guy I had going first here in the third round at 99, Yaya Diaby. B.J. Thompson's a pure edge guy. He's linear, long, 6'5", only weighed in at 200 and just under 250 pounds, I think, at his pro day, but ran a 4.58. So athleticism, thin, long, another project type of a player for the 49ers, and B.J. Thompson, who did come in for a 30 visit as well out of Stephen F. Austin. And there you go. There's our dueling mock drafts for 2023, Croc. And now it's here. Now it's time to see the real thing.
I do want to say one thing about Wicks. And this is a guy that potentially, again, I have not watched him, so I don't want to speak too much on him until I kind of watch the film. But the fact that they brought him in, awesome. Especially, I mean, I'm watching some highlights. You see the quicks. You see the, like, go, get it type of ability. And you look at his 2021 year, 57 receptions, 1,200 yards, average 21 yards per reception. And then last season, it looks like he potentially got hurt. I don't think he played in every game. Looked like maybe I'm only seeing 5 games here. Let me click on see all. So again, I'm watching a little, watching a little bit, box score scouting, and no, he played in about 5, 6, 7, 8 games and only had 30 catches. But even then, over 14 yards per reception. I mean, and that previous year, again, the year he was most productive, 9 touchdowns as well. So it seems like a guy that has some legit ability, 77-yard touchdown catch. Those are things I see him winning on the outside. Again, I hate watching highlights. Because it's like the best version of him. Who is he on a consistent basis? But just seeing some ability to be able to kind of talk about him and what I'm seeing right now to some of our listeners who haven't seen him, looks good after the catch too. So that's an interesting prospect there. Big body guy.
Competitive after the catch, competitive at the catch point. He did have dropsies a little bit, and he only ran a 4.6. But yeah, interesting. A lot of players to think about for the San Francisco 49ers. How many of them will become actual 49ers? We will find out Thursday. Tune in live. Croc and I will check in during round 1, maybe after round 1 again, and of course after round 3 and after any time the San Francisco 49ers make a selection. And they might be trading, so you're going to be wanting to tune in the entire draft most likely, because I don't think John Lynch is going to sit on his hands this year. And I don't think he sat on his hands last year, but wasn't able to make any trades. That's not going to happen 2 years in a row for the San Francisco 49ers. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen. Croc and I back during the draft tomorrow, right here, Locked On 49ers.